O'Reilly. The next time you need auto parts and accessories, trust the parts professionals at the 30 Raleigh-Durham O'Reilly Auto Parts stores. Our professional parts people know what it takes to get the job done right. Professionals have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for decades. Now you can too. Professional parts people, O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, you are now tuned in to 110 Sports Talk. I go by the name Lynn Knack. Hey,
it's the best.
Running through the competition, no competition. You don't believe it, turn us up. Sit back and listen. We bringing you the stats, all the breaking news and facts. Want the latest on the biggest trade war, this is where it's at. We don't talk it, boy, we live it. Got that all around coverage. From track and field, you name a field, we got it all covered. No diss to Derrick Rose, but we don't talk that bull. Just wait till he get healthy, better watch out for them bulls. Slide over the hockey, shout out to the Kings. Salute to LeBron James, y'all both got y'all rings. Looking for the real, you tune into the best. The sportologist and Mr. CJ Sports is up next.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Tell you what, we try our best here to make Mondays not to be so horrible. You scroll through social media and you scroll through and really anywhere, and everybody's dreading Monday. The Monday going back to work and everything else. Now, granted, I have an advantage over everybody else. I'm off on Monday, so I don't have to go to work. But on top of that, we try to do our part here. 3 shows, 4 hours worth of sports talk radio to help try to ease the Monday blues away. 11 o'clock, we kicked off with the Monday morning quarterback. At 7 o'clock, we kicked off Rubbing His Racing, and then, of course, now the next 2 hours is the 110 Nation Sports Show. So we try to do our part here to help you guys get past the Monday blues. But I tell you what, an interesting weekend. Good God. NASCAR, Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano. Wow. Michigan State and then Michigan this weekend. Wow. There's a lot of different things that happened over the weekend, and looking forward to spending the next 3 days, be able to catch up on that Chicago Cubs and in the NLCS. Them and the Mets, interesting. Tired of hearing the Back to the Future is, I believe, the 21st is the actual date that they used to where they went into the future. So, of course, we're going to have to hear that for still the next several days. But the fact that the Chicago Cubs could possibly win the World Series in 2015 as and I got messages coming up to ride again. God, anybody waits till you get on the show to send messages away. Interesting weekend of sports. I definitely want to talk about that and have the opportunity over the next 3 days. Speaking of the next 3 days, we got 3 wonderful guests joining us outside of the norms, but we got Amber Balkin joining us tonight at 9:30. We also got Hannah Newhouse making a return this week, and also Sarah Cornett-Sheen making a return to the show this week. Looking forward to be able to talk to all 3 of those. Of course, we got Patrick Taylor joining us at 10 o'clock for an hour's worth of NFL, and of course, we got Patrick and Izzo joining us tomorrow night as well. Patrick back to talk some more NFL, getting ready for Week 7 of the NFL, and then we got Izzo joining us at 10:30 to talk NHL. So looking forward to another great week of sports talk. So looking forward to that. If you guys have not checked out our site, go to www.the110nation.com. If you've not checked out our blog sites, you got to go over there, www.the110nationsports.com. I'll tell you what, I just did a piece a little bit ago, a little short thing, with a video. I tell you what, that video was hilarious to me. And for the fact that it was a local ABC station. A local ABC station to the Michigan Wolverines. And it was about 1:07 long. It's about 1:07 It's about 1:07 long, and it's a local ABC station that reports the it reports that the Michigan Wolverines. Sorry, I just had 20,000 things trying to all come through at one time. I'm trying to get everybody situated here. Reports that the Michigan Wolverines win against Michigan State Saturday night, and goes on for a whole 1:07 talking about it. No clue in the world that Michigan State ended up winning on the last play of the game, and just goes on talking about the both teams not happy with the officiating, and how Michigan basically prevailed, and how the fans come running out of the stadium and running the streets of Ann Arbor, and then they go back to the studio, and you could hear the guy in the studio talk, actually, that is our bad. We didn't tell them that Michigan State came back and won on the last play of the game, and we'll have that fixed for 11 o'clock. You got to see the video. It's definitely hilarious. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, as many apps that there are for your phone, who does not check the updates? You could have the Fox Sports app. You could have ESPN's app. I'm sure ABC has their own app. NBC Sports, CBS Sports, all of them have apps. I don't care which app you choose. But I would have thought if I'm going on air that I would have had a clue what I was talking about. And instead of sounding like an idiot on national TV, I mean, I know it's still local, but I mean, it's ABC, and sound like an idiot proclaiming one team to be the winner who actually lost it in last play fashion, and in a very bad last play. I don't know who caught this game and who did not catch this game out there. But I happened to, I was watching the Xfinity Series race, and then once it was over, I was kind of bouncing around, and I wasn't really paying attention. I was assuming that the game was over. I was assuming it was an earlier in the day kind of game, and so I really didn't pay much mind. And I happened to turn it on with about 2 minutes or so left. I watched Michigan State turn it over on downs to give Michigan the ball back with like 1:47, and Michigan State had one timeout. And to watch them get it down to the last 10 seconds when Michigan had to punt it, and instead of just trying to run around in circles or, I don't know, try to find a better way to kill the 10 seconds, at least go for it or something. I mean, either way, you were giving them the ball. They decided to punt it, and the punter mishandles the snap and picks it back up and is kind of swung around, and as he does, he kind of lets go of the ball, and it lands right in Michigan State's hands, and he takes it to the house, like 38-yard return. And Michigan State wins this game, and I'm beyond myself. All I can say is just, wow. Like, did that just really happen? Wow. Like, that's all I could do. And, I mean, it was a great game. It was a great way to finish the game. It was very unexpected. For sure thought Michigan had this one in the bag. There was, I think they said it was a .02 probability that Michigan State could pull that off. according to, I think, ESPN or whatever. And sure enough, and what's even more humorous to me about it is the fact that somebody from Michigan vandalized the Magic Johnson statue at Michigan State, and Magic Johnson was able to get the last word after that game. But, yeah, and on a serious note, though, it's a shame that the punter has received such hate messages, death threats. It's just a game. I was gonna say I could understand if you were number one again and lost to someone like Appalachian State, but there's no justice or there's no reason or justification for somebody to be threatened the way he has since missing the punt. But kind of severe, kind of, I don't know, a little extreme in my books. National title game would have been a little more justifiable, I guess. I say that jokingly, but there's no reason to ever threaten somebody's life or go to the extreme that fans have. But it was just the middle of the season game. I mean, yeah, it ultimately pretty much eliminated Michigan out of an opportunity to go into the playoffs. I mean, 2 losses now. It would take a lot of losing by the rest of the Big Ten. You still got Iowa undefeated. You still got Ohio State undefeated. Northwestern, I still think that has got 2 losses. Michigan State still undefeated. I think Wisconsin might only have 2 losses. I mean, it would take a lot, obviously, for them to have an opportunity to win out and get into the playoffs and have an opportunity to the national title. So, I mean, I understand, that was kind of a shot in the arm, and yes, it sucks to lose to little brother, and yes, now you got to listen to them talk and talk smack for the rest of the year. I mean, the only way you can really erase what just happened is go and beat Ohio State in your last week, and hope for the best. You just hope that Ohio State is still number one, and you just hope that you're able to defend your home, and hope that helps you in the rankings. At least you get a better bowl game opportunity anyway. I mean, at this point is all you could really hope for. Speaking of Ohio State, stays on top one more week with a 37-10 victory over Penn State. I think we might have finally seen the transition from Cordell Jones to J.T. Barrett. Jones not playing very well. J.T. Barrett came in and was able to really make an impactful difference in the game. Early in the game, come in for the red zone opportunities, and they were able to put points on the board. And then it got to the point that since Cordell Jones wasn't really moving the ball, they just transitioned over to it being J.T. Barrett the whole time. And Ohio State's offense looked very good. Defense was still kind of, 2 weeks in a row, kind of worried. Yes, they only allowed 10 points, but they allowed Penn State to run up and down the field on them all game long. Missed punts, a turnover, those kind of things, or not missed punt, but a missed field goal. Those kind of things obviously hurt. A missed field goal and a penalty that took back a touchdown really just kind of helped change the momentum of the game. But Ohio State obviously stays on top for another week with a nice win against a 5-1 Penn State team. You don't have your people say what you want about Ohio State and their schedule, but I mean, Penn State up until that point only had one loss, had a loss against Temple, and you can say what you want to say about Penn State or Ohio State and their schedule, but they're playing productive Big Ten teams. When they played Indiana was only 4-1. They played Penn State was only 5-1. I mean, granted, they might not have 10 undefeated game or 10 ranked teams that they got to play this year, but they're still playing quality opponents. It's not like, when Florida State ran for the national title and their opponent's combined record was 81-81. I mean, they might not be playing ranked opponents, but they are playing opponents that have good records and are having good seasons. So, or a good season anyway. But I think, tell you what, stay top. And the schedule is, sitting pretty nice until you get to that Michigan State-Michigan game. But next week you got Rutgers, then you're off. Then you go to Minnesota, or you play Minnesota, go to Illinois, home against Michigan State, and then Michigan finish up the season against two ranked teams. So we'll see how all that plays out. But, of course, Ohio State's not going to name the starter. They're going to make us wait it out and play the waiting game, as they seem to like to do week in and week out. Top 25, Ohio State stays on top. Getting 28 of the votes. Baylor, number 2. It's funny because I watched early on in the Baylor game. Now, once Baylor started pulling away, then I really had no more interest in the game. But it was close there for a while. And what's funny to me is if that was Ohio State, they would be criticized. They would be talked about. Talk about Ohio State this and their schedule that, struggling against, an unranked team. Meanwhile, Baylor was struggling against what was then a 3-2 West Virginia team, unranked. Like I said, it took Baylor, I want to say second half, if not later, halftime or if not later, to really start pulling away from the Mountaineers there. So it's funny how when it's the Ohio State Buckeyes, it's viewed as one way, but when it's Baylor, it's kind of viewed in another way. Same with TCU. And a lot of people are talking about the fact that TCU's schedule is very weak. But they have struggled more than once against teams. I mean, it was about a couple weeks ago, it was a tip pass in the end zone that the TCU receiver ended up catching to get TCU the win by just a couple points. That was their game that they should have lost. And on the very end of the game, but nobody talks about it. But we got Baylor 2, Utah 3, TCU 4. I mean, honestly, if I look at the top 5, if I had to pick who should be number 2 at this point, it should be the number 5 team. It should be LSU. They were victorious over the number 8 Florida Gators, who were undefeated as well. Gators put up a hell of a game. Gators only lost by 7 points, and with their quarterback being suspended for the rest of the season going into that game, I was rather surprised they kept it as close as they did. I honestly thought that that was an opportunity for LSU to kind of beat the crap out of Florida and make themselves look that much better. I mean, you beat the 8th-ranked team, the undefeated SEC team, and instead Florida kept it close. And maybe that's why they didn't see that big of a jump in the points. As a matter of fact, they jumped up one spot in the polls as LSU was 6, and Philadelphia just did a pick 6 on Eli Manning, just took it to the house, and that you've seen that coming a mile away. I'm surprised Eli Manning even threw that ball. That was just horrible as Philadelphia, their fans are just going crazy right now as Giants did jump out to a 7-0 lead, and now with that pick 6 was about a 20-yard return, about an 18-yard return. Now it's Philadelphia 14-7. I picked Philadelphia. I don't even want to talk about this week. Football Bulls. Oh, God, it was horrible. With this win, I'm going to go 8-6, but I could possibly be sitting at a 7-7 record this week. That is by far the worst week I have had. But, to be honest with you, the way LSU is playing, and more specifically how Fournette is playing, I would rather see LSU. I would feel better about the ranking system if LSU was number 2. As a matter of fact, I would feel better about the ranking system if LSU was number 2, Clemson was number 3, and Michigan State was number 4, and even Alabama be number 5 before we talk about Baylor, Utah, and TCU. I just really would. Like, it really bothers me that this is the way the football pools are looking. Baylor, Utah, and TCU, 3 teams that are beating up on nobody, and not even beating up half the time. And I know that they made a big to-do. Baylor scored 60-plus points, and I don't know how many games already this year, a ridiculous amount, but that tells you the quality of opponents they have. It's not that Baylor is that good of a team. It's just they have a very weak schedule. Yeah, it might be tough for them, but I guarantee if Ohio State and LSU and Alabama and Michigan State, even Michigan had the same opponents that Baylor has, they would be doing the same thing. It's not really fair to compare apples and oranges at this point. But you got Clemson 6, Michigan State 7, Alabama back in the top 10 at 8, Florida State 9th, Stanford 10th. Notre Dame nearly losing to USC 11th. Iowa 12th, Florida slips to 13th, Oklahoma State up to 14th, Texas A&M 15th, Michigan tied with them at 15th. It slipped down from 12 to 15 with that loss to Michigan State. Oklahoma 17th, Memphis 18th, 19th Toledo, 20th California, 21st Houston, Temple 22nd. Still don't understand how Duke is in the top 25, but 23rd Mississippi, 24th, and how the hell did Pittsburgh manage to find their way into the top 25 as well is beyond me. But Stanford's win, obviously, over UCLA Thursday night helped their cause, 56-35. Really just ruined UCLA's hopes of anything this year. It just pretty much shut out of the water. Houston 42-7 over Tulane. Boise State no longer ranked, falls to Utah State 52-26. That kind of ruined their momentum. Like I said, Baylor was over Virginia. Iowa and Northwestern. We ain't talked much about Iowa yet this year. And Iowa is creating quite a disturbance there, as not only are they now 7-0, but they beat a very good Northwestern team 40-10, and really kind of control their own destiny at this point. Man, they can win out. I'm aware that their schedule is very complimentary of the rest of the year, but they can win out. No, let's talk about their running back Wadley. 204 yards, outrushed what their quarterback even threw. Only thrown for 176 yards, 15 of 25, no touchdowns, an interception. But it's going to be interesting to see how Iowa hurts other teams' possibilities. Now, Iowa's played a couple of ranked teams. They beat Wisconsin 10-6, and now they beat Northwestern. Now they're scheduled the rest of the year: Maryland, Indiana, Minnesota, Purdue, and Nebraska. There's a possibility maybe Nebraska could turn their year around and get to be ranked. You're asking a lot for that to happen, but with Nebraska, it's not asking a lot. As long as they can win, they play a Northwestern team. Yes, it's no longer ranked, but I said 3-3, 3-4. It's probably impossible at this point for Nebraska to get it ranked. They would have to win out. They would have to be 8-4, and they would. And their schedule is complimentary to do it. Northwestern, just because they're right outside the top 25 at this point, they're still a quality win. They got Michigan State and they got Iowa. So you win those 3 games. You win out and go 8-4. You can still end up in the top 25, but we know it's not going to happen. But Iowa is feeling the same burden as, and it's just funny how it works. Like they're feeling the same burden as Ohio State and the whole schedule conversation. But at the same time, they're winning games, and really that's all that matters. So, but Iowa State 7-0. Kind of curious to see how the rest of this plays out for Iowa, and see if they disrupt any playoff hopes for. And it's weird to talk and say playoff hopes when it comes to college football. It looks like the Philadelphia Eagles might have made the Giants turn it over again with a fumble this time, as they're reviewing it. But Tom Coughlin ain't looking too happy. Possibility the Eagles might just got the ball back. Just that quick. Tonight we got the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays in a game out here for the American League Championship. Royals are up 2-0, but Toronto's up already 9-2 in the bottom of the third. As Toronto is trying their hardest to stay in this championship game to get to the World Series. Been one-sided so far, so we'll see what Toronto can do out there. But gotta love baseball. Gotta love the bat flip. Oh my God, I have never heard so much talk about a simple flipping of the bat. When Jose Bautista and the Toronto Blue Jays got themselves into the ALCS, I never thought we was going to be done hearing about it. So definitely loving the playoffs. Definitely loving the opportunity to continue watching the march for the Chicago Cubs. I tell you what, that's just a remarkable story to even sit here and talk about. The fact that this is going to possibly be a Back to the Future in the making. Even though the Mets are up 2-0, travel to Chicago. We'll see what happens there and see if the Chicago Cubs can get themselves back into contention of winning. On the other side of this, we got Amber Malkin joining us. Looking forward to having her back on the show. And then we got Patrick Taylor joining us at 10 o'clock to 10 at Talk NFL. We'll be back right after this.
Bigger than a spider bee. Spider bees a lot of me. I'm what's inside of me. Trying to be the biggest, but what's the biggest? Is it bigger? I'm all that I could be. Trying to make the biggest bigger. I'm trying to be the biggest. Bigger is alive in me. Bigger than the biggest kid is growing up inside of me. Trying to be the biggest. A bigger promise I deliver. Be all that I can be. Trying to make the biggest bigger. Still on the crime scene and I'm just trying to be the biggest.
Welcome back. I'm sorry about that. I had to take care of some things real quick so I'm prepared for the second half of this show. So I had to play something real quick, and that was the only thing was still in there. As when the accounts, when we had to shift the count around, everything got deleted out of there. So anyway, make sure you guys tune into the One Ten Nation sports show. Monday through Wednesday, 9 to 11 Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, we got Monday morning quarterback at 11 a.m. to noon. Rubbing is Racing from 7 to 8 on Monday nights as well. Thursday night we got Racing with Big Sweat. Make sure you guys check that out, 9 o'clock till whenever, and I say whenever, anywhere from 10 to 11 o'clock, depending on how many guests Steve Billmeyer and Chris Creighton have in there, is how long we are on the air. And last week I think we went all the way up to 11 o'clock. So it varies from week to week, but you know you're going to at least get an hour, but somewhere between an hour and 2 hours. Also, if you missed last Friday's debut of the CJ and Shorty show, we had a blast, and Shorty really asked, is there really a difference between ice hockey and figure skating? Now, she was not being serious, but she really did ask that on the air. So we had a blast with that. We got to talk about the bet that we got going on. Just the opportunity for us to kind of cut back, have a little fun, and not be so serious, and kind of push the envelope a little bit. So make sure you guys check that out noon on Fridays. And got a lot of things going on at the 110 Nation. Looking to continue to grow. If you've not followed us on the Spreaker platform, we would love for you to go over there and go over to Spreaker.com. Or if you catch the shows or you're a fan of us on Facebook, you can click on the link for the Spreaker edition of it. And below our little logo is a follow button. We would greatly appreciate if you followed us over there on the Spreaker edition. The reason it's so important for us is once we accomplish having at least 100 follows, we can start working on being on the iHeartRadio network. And a lot of people do a lot of great things here at the 110 Nation. There's a lot of people that have their hands in making this go as good and successful as it's been going. And it is all of our dreams to continue expanding, continue getting bigger, and continue increasing our listenership. And every month since we've been back on the air, we have grown by a significant amount every month. And going to the iHeartRadio, and at the same time we would be probably doing TuneIn Radio too, which is another popular app. I know I've listened to many races, and I've listened to them multiple times, used that app. Both being on the iHeartRadio and the TuneIn Radio not only would increase our listenership, but it would increase our possibilities of picking up more shows and sponsorship. We already know we got one show that is ready to jump on board once this happens. We also know that this show is going to be bringing sponsorship with them. So we'll be gaining that as well. That is why it's important that you guys go over there and just follow. And it literally takes anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. In other words, if you already have an account with Spreaker, all you got to do is just go click the follow button, maybe 15 seconds. If you don't have an account, you can log in or sign up by using your Facebook information. Just click and log in or sign up by using Facebook. And it takes maybe 30 seconds to do it. And that's all we're asking. And I was told it just sends you one, they post one thing on your Facebook page or something. Basically, I don't really know what it says, but that's really the extent of it. You can delete it if it really bothers you that much, but that's the extent of what it does. And what it does for us, though, it makes us be one step closer of making this dream become a reality. In other words, we here at the 110 Nation, those that are working here, we want this to be our job. We want to, Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week kind of job, that we get to sit here and talk about and be around our passion, and that's sports. And so with us doing this and be able to get on the iHeartRadio network, it would help us into that direction by the way we're going to increase it, and by the shows we'll be able to add on to, and by the sponsorship. And so if you could, just please, all we're asking is 15 to 30 seconds of your time. That's really it. Go to the Spreaker platform, hit follow, and help us get to those 100. Our goal is 110. Obviously, with the 110 Nation, we want to have at least 110. And I'll probably wait until we got close to 110, just so we didn't look like all of a sudden we just got a bunch of people to click it real quick, and we're dying to get. But I want to be established. I want us to continue to grow. Which brings us to our 2016 goal, and that's by the end of 2016, we want to have 8 hours of show going on a day. We want to have 5 hours. We want to be able to up our plan to the 5 hour a day on Spreaker Live and the 3 hour a day on BTR. We want to see if we can handle being on a third of the day. And obviously it's probably going to be all late night hour shows. I'd be willing to bet. I'm not 100% sure how, we work this out with people having, lives and work schedules and everything else. But ultimately, we would love to have the opportunity, and maybe it will get lucky. Maybe it'll work out that we'll start the shows such as the 110 Nation Sports Show and whatever other show early, on the East Coast, and as the shows are later and later after the 110 Nation Sports Show are farther and farther and west, so it's not so late for them, and it all balances out. Like I said, this is all stuff that would have to be worked out and down the road. But ultimately, we want to be on 8 hours a day. So we know we can handle it. The ultimate goal is to be 24/7. And I think that if we can get to a point that we have 8 hours of quality shows, and we can do that 7 days a week, and have shows in the reserve, I guess, I don't know what I'm looking for. In the batter's box, ready to come up and ready to be an impactful piece of the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network, be tickled. To have 8 hours a day and know we have shows ready and that are waiting to have their opportunity to come on the network, so we know when we flip that switch and go 24/7, we're good to go. And so the goal, we have a certain number of goals that we're working to reach every single month as we want to grow in the same rapid pace that we have over the last 3 or 4 months. And we did it on average, and we're going to continue to modify that every 3 months or so and get an accurate growth on our network. But we have an idea where we want to go, where we want to be by the end of 2016. We know what kind of expansion, and even with the numbers I have going through 2016, that's just based off the shows that we have now. Now, if our plan works out and we go to 8 hours a day, obviously we're going to modify those numbers because I don't want the same numbers off of 2 hours a day, 4 days a week versus 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we got a map. We got a plan. Now it's just to get there, and like I said, one of the steps of getting us there is you guys going and following the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network on Spreaker. Help us get to having 100 plus follows, so we can get on the iHeartRadio network, and so we are able to. We are able to get to where we want to be by the end of 2016, and eventually be 24/7 like we ultimately will. If you're not friends with us on Facebook, make sure you like us. You can like my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can like the sport and side of the house, 110 Nation Sports, or you can like the guest and the radio side of the house, 110 Nation Sports Radio. Like I said, if you've not liked us, or if you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. You can follow myself at CJ Sports 1, and you can follow Miss Lee at Creedy RN. That's CREEDYRN. Also, you can follow Shorty on Twitter as well at Aaron. That's ERIN _Anglin ANGLIN. Make sure that you guys do that as well. As she sometimes has some interesting tweets. Not very often, but every once in a blue moon. I drove with her, but we had a blast Friday on the CJ and Shorty show. Had a great time with that. Can't wait until this Thursday. We're going to talk about, we're going to rate what we think the 10 toughest sports are. Also, we're going to put out 3 athletes that we would cheat on each other with. I'm curious to know which 3 athletes out there that she'd be willing to give all this up for. Not that this is saying much, but I'm kind of curious to know what would tickle her fancy. So, and I'm going to work on my 3. I think everybody knows my 3. I think I know everybody knows at least 2 of my 3. As a matter of fact, I think everybody knows all three of mine, so really not going to be probably too much of a shock. But I might pull one out of the hat and someone that nobody is expecting for me to say. Who knows? But, yeah, looking forward to that Friday, as that has become a kind of the highlight of the week, believe it or not. If you guys have not checked out my series, The Man Behind Mr. CJ Sports, you guys need to check that out. It gives me an opportunity to relate to the fans. I feel that you guys invest time in the show. You invest time into the company. You invest your time into me, and it gives me a time and an opportunity to kind of invest likewise. Let you know what's going on behind the scene, what went on for the last 4.5 years to make us where we're at, to know what's going on now, and just to hear cool things going on and get to know me behind Mr. CJ Sports. And, I've gone back to the very beginning, the creation of the 110 Nation, actually with CJ Sports back then, back to the creation of Mr. CJ Sports, aired out some dirty laundry with some former partners, just different things, an ideal day for me at the 110 Nation, just different opportunities. I'm going to be doing an episode after we get off the air here tonight. It's going to be a trip down memory lane, part of what has gone on in the past, so looking forward for the opportunity to do that as well tonight. Tell you what, this is the third show. I have another installment of that, so that technically gives me 4 shows tonight. I did an article today. I tell you what, been a pretty productive day here at the 110 Nation for myself. Sometimes I even surprise myself and is able to pat myself on the back on some of the things that I get accomplished some weeks. Now, there's other days that's not so lucky, not so productive. I know earlier today I wasn't feeling very productive at all. Got sucked into, watching, recapping the race that I missed, and then watching NFL Network or headquarters or whatever. And speaking of which, I was entertaining earlier, and I tweeted out about it, posted a status and tweeted out about it earlier today, that Michael Fabiano, on the NFL headquarters, mentioned the fact that Peyton Manning was like the 28th ranked quarterback. And he probably was talking about fantasy, but either way, ranked 28th quarterback. And he goes on to say that means there's 27 quarterbacks better than him. He said there's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And, the only thing I could say to that is, thanks for telling me. Like, there's 32 NFL teams. I would have never guessed there was 32 starting quarterbacks. I would have never guessed there was 4 quarterbacks worse than him. And if they would have broke down that simple math for me and informed me that there was 32 starting quarterbacks, since there's 32 teams, I tweeted them. I had to thank them. I mean, without that useful information, of course, I never got a tweet back and didn't get favored or nothing. I'm kind of upset with that. You at least could have showed some kind of love. I mean, I did thank you for breaking it down for me and letting me know that there are 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL that has 32 starting teams. And what did London ever do to the NFL? I mean, obviously they had to do something to piss off the NFL. Sunday's game, 9:30 in the morning, which is fine and dandy all the time. I don't know what time it is their time. I'm fine with all that. But you send the Buffalo Bills versus the Jacksonville Jaguars? What did London ever do to you? I understand that there's a possibility. You didn't know that Buffalo was going to be as bad as they were. Yes, track record says they've not really been a team worth watching for a long time now. But good NFL, I give you the scheduling department. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But Jacksonville sucks. Jacksonville has sucked for a very, very long time. So therefore, it should have never even been a doubt at all in your mind that Jacksonville is going to suck once again this year. So if you're wanting to expand your viewership, if you're wanting to expand your product, if you're really strongly considering having teams overseas, why would you not give a good product? Why would you send some of the worst teams in the NFL over there to play over there? I had someone comment on it. They were talking about, well, this way they can tell if the market is still good, if they got to watch two crappy teams, and there's a possibility, that's the scenario that'll play out there. They can kind of judge their ratings and whether or not it's going to be worth their while to do it, which, yeah, okay, I guess if you want to look at it that way. But I'm looking at it as, why would you send garbage over there? I mean, if you really felt that Buffalo was the team you needed to send over there, you should have had the Buffalo Bills and the Patriots, or the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. Buffalo is the first team you picked. Then you should have put someone that was complementary to their level of play, so you can at least put on a interesting game. God, even with the garbage known as E.J. Manuel at the quarterback, this is still going to be a lopsided game. I don't care that Sammy Watkins, we watch him walking with a crutch. It's still going to be a lopsided game. I don't care that Percy Harvard is probably not going to be playing. Once again, it's still going to be a lopsided game. That I don't get it, not at all. I'm assuming that the NFL has done something, or London has done something to piss off the NFL, because I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, for you to get one NFL game, possibly two a year, and one of the matchups is going to be the Buffalo Bills against the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's not even no high-profile names, really. You can say LaShawn McCoy, but, this is not the same Shady McCoy that was in Philadelphia. And Buffalo really has no other high-profile name. Sammy Watkins ain't played enough and stayed healthy enough for him to be considered a high-profile name. Same with Percy Harvin. He ain't been healthy enough and has really not been relevant in a while. And in Jacksonville, you really don't have no high-profile name. So not only are you sending two garbage teams over there, you're not sending anybody that's going to help bring in any NFL revenue. You should have sent somebody, Green Bay Packers. Oh God, they're going to buy a crap ton of Aaron Rodgers jerseys, or we can name a whole bunch of teams that would have been better. That you would have got, Cleveland. You at least would have sold Johnny Manziel jerseys, Cincinnati, AJ Green jerseys, even possibly Andy Dalton jerseys the way he's playing this year. Steelers, we can go with about 20 different things with that. Oh my God, the Steelers. How fortunate were they to lose Michael Vick, who was not doing garbage, 3 of 8 or something for less than 10 yards, 3 of 6 for 8 yards, something like that, to have Landry Jones come in and 2 touchdowns, and really impressive. But there's many teams that even if they were garbage, such as the Cleveland Browns, you got marketable players. And that's not what the NFL said. They said 2 teams with garbage with non-marketable players. Speaking of Johnny Manziel, once again, back in the news. Johnny. Who's Johnny? She said. Johnny. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't tiptoe onto topics that we're going to be talking about. So before I venture into this, I need to pull up my email again to make sure that I don't want to jump into too many topics that we're going to be talking about here at the 10 o'clock spot with Patrick Taylor from Limeblower. But yes, Johnny Manziel is not on his list. Johnny, 10-week rehab. And this is the minor part of the whole incident last Monday. You admit to have drank before you drove. So that's one issue. The other issue, and this is more of on a serious note. I'm gonna try to be on a serious note, but more of what I am curious and interested in. I have mentioned a few times on this show that I believe the NFL's new approach to domestic violence is just an act. That they want to look good. There was a charity out there that could use their money to actually try to do good, and it had to be a mutual fit. You know what? We'll throw you a little money. We'll have some players and ex-players come on your commercial. Makes us look like we're concerned about. It makes us seem like we're concerned about domestic violence. You guys are really not going to say nothing because we're going to dump a lot of money and give you some celebrities to put on your commercials so people are going to pay attention to it. And that's really the extent of what we really care about stopping domestic violence. I mean, there's been more and more rumors about Ray Rice having an opportunity in the NFL, which that kind of throws your whole stance against domestic violence out the window, period, if you allow him back in the league after what we've seen him do on video, not just accusations, not speculations, not anything, what was actually on video camera. You knocking your, at the time, fiance out, punching her, and dragging her out of the elevator. Now, if that is not a big slap in the face, if you turn around and dump all that money into a domestic violence commercial and stance, I don't know what is. That shows you how much of smoke and mirrors that truly is. Johnny Manziel beat the Ray Rice issue to the punch because he couldn't leave his hands off his girlfriend. And according to reports, he physically attacked her, pushed her head against the window, was driving erratically 90 miles an hour up the highway, weaving in and out of traffic, eventually got off the highway, and then would let his girlfriend out of the car, and obviously the authorities showed up. But now the NFL, thanks to Johnny Manziel, now has to deal with it now. Now we're going to find out how serious the NFL truly was. They want to have these commercials that they invest this money in, preaching that they are with taking a stance against domestic violence. Now you have a domestic dispute. Now you have a domestic violence case because he laid his hand on. There was marks. There was reports of physical harm done to her. You see the marks. NFL, now you're front center stage. Now you have an opportunity to show us whether or not you were just dumping money into a charitable cause to look good, or if you really are behind what you said. There's two instances right here that will truly let us know exactly where the NFL stands. Both of them are going to be high-profile cases. Whether or not they allow Ray Rice to have an opportunity to go back to a team, if any team, and I know it's sad to say the Dallas Cowboys will probably be the team to take him, but it will speak a lot of any NFL team if they lower their standards and sign Ray Rice. But the Ray Rice incident will be a high-profile case whether or not the NFL allows him to be able to be on a team. And then, of course, Johnny Manziel, because of his name, that also will be a high-profile case. Both of these cases in the stance for the NFL against domestic violence is going to get a lot of publicity, and I am really, really dying to see whether or not the NFL backs what they've been spending their money on, or if it was truly just smoke and mirrors. This is going to be our way to judge. There could be all the talk that there wants to be. There could be, all the assumptions and speculations and everything else. But when it comes down to it, when it's all said and done, this is where the NFL is going to be adjudged on the domestic violence and where they stand. So I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch how this all unfolds. Trust me, I'm not going to let it go until we finally see something done to Johnny Manziel, and until we finally see that Ray Rice never plays on the team. I will always have an interest, especially with the commercials that they continuously play. It's just me. There are just certain things that I am not going to get past. That is one of them. So I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'm going to see how serious the NFL is truly taking this. I'm just really curious. I just think that as many professionals that there's supposed to be in the NFL and how much money these guys are making, that there should be no reason that what we're seeing, the classless act that we're seeing. And so definitely excited to see what will happen. Don't forget, we got Patrick Taylor from Line Blower joining us here at the 10 o'clock hour to wrap up Week 6 in the NFL. Very excited about having him back on the show. Always a great time. Getting ready to go to halftime at the on the Monday Night Football game. Philadelphia still up 14-7. Really need this win. I would really like to go 8-6 versus going 7-7 this week. That would be really swell. My march to being 75% just took a big hit this week. Very big hit. Very big hit. Going into the bottom of the fifth in the ALCS, Kansas City and Toronto. Toronto at home is still up 9-4. Great game going on over there. So you guys make sure you guys check that out as well. A lot of great games going on tonight. A lot of NBA action and NHL action as well. Actually, there's only one action game tonight. The Rangers was victorious a little bit earlier over San Jose, 4-0. NBA, Cleveland able to finally get them a win in preseason, 103-97. LeBron James not playing the rest of the preseason, had to get a cortisone shot in his back. Hoping to get himself prepared for the regular season. Charlotte was victorious over Chicago early in 94-86. Brooklyn and Boston to get ready to wrap this up. Boston is up 111-103 with about 12 seconds left. And then you still got almost a whole fourth quarter to go, and New Orleans is up over Houston 89-88. A nice game over there. So make sure you guys check those out as well. Like I said, it's a lot of stuff going on. I'll be very excited about this next hour on the show because there was some interesting stuff in the NFL yesterday or this week period. I still can't get past the fact that the Atlanta Falcons have looked so good and so dominant for so much of the year already. First 5 games, 5-0. To look like such garbage. And dog, you're gonna have to lay. I'm sorry, my dog has to lay somewhere else. He's over here stinking up the living room. Good God. Take that somewhere else, dog. But yeah, beyond amazed how the New Orleans Saints made the Atlanta Falcons looked like garbage Thursday night. We got the Colts and Patriots, that game. Oh my God, what was going on there? Dog, you're just horrible. Still got 5 undefeated teams. One of them had a pretty good scare. Matter of fact, a couple of them had a pretty good scare. Green Bay had a scare. Philip Rivers, 503 yards, 2 touchdowns, in a losing effort. Denver into overtime against the Cleveland Browns. So it wasn't all dandelions and skipping in the field. There was some work that had to come down this weekend to maintain being undefeated for some teams. So very excited about having the opportunity to talk about some of it here with Patrick Taylor joining us from Line Blowers. You guys can check them out over at lineblower.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at line_blower. Make sure you guys check them out. Hoping that we get them here in the next few minutes here. Make sure I miss no emails. No. Oh, so much fun. You know, it'd be horrible if it would be horrible if we didn't have our second guest show up tonight as well. That would be pretty bad. Starting to wonder if I'm just not that likable of a person. Kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. Not really, but you know, sounded good. There we go. We got Patrick in the studio. See, I am somewhat of a likable person. I didn't run everybody off. How you doing tonight, Patrick?
Good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I tell you what, this is probably the worst week that I know it is. There's no probably. The worst week. As long as Philadelphia holds on to this, which looks like they're going to go up 17-7 going into the halftime, and that's what they're going to do. I'm going to go 8-6 for the week. If the Giants pull this out, this has got to be really bad. I hate to go 500. But not the week that I was expecting, but a lot of interesting stuff this week.
Yeah, it was a good week of NFL action, a lot of good storylines, a lot of close games. So a little better than last week, and a lot of interesting stuff to talk about.
Before we jump into this, let's do what we do. I want to give you an opportunity to plug yourself over there at Line Blowers and anything else that you want to throw out there.
Yeah, lineblower.com. It's outcome prediction and sports pop culture, analyzing different aspects of sports and things like that. So come check us out. Follow us on Twitter, line_blower, and then also on Facebook, Facebook page, Line Blower.
Now, being a resident of North Carolina, the first topic is not my favorite topic out of all the topics to talk about on this list. And I was kind of wanting to ask you the same thing as what you asked. And so I was curious. It was, kind of funny to me. We're both on the same page on this. And what, basically what we're getting ready to try to break down is whether or not we should give the Panthers the credit for the win or the Seattle the credit for the loss. And fortunately for me today, I didn't have to work, so I didn't have to be out in the public eye and listen to people, more specifically Carolina Panther fans, talk the garbage. And I had to see it on social media all night, last night and today, but I have not had to be out there yet to listen to it. And luckily for me, when I said what I said over the next 4 games, I want to see how they do, at least taking 2. If they can go 6-2 with the next 4 games that they have coming up, then I would have a lot more respect for them. I'm still not ready to say a lot of credit. Obviously, they had to be in the game for that collapse of the defense to even make a difference. And so I got to give them some credit, but I mean, essentially that touchdown, that was a total meltdown. From what I heard, it was two different plays got called in, so you had your secondary all on two different game plans, and there's a reasoning I've heard anyway. I'm going to give a little credit to both ends. I'm going to say that the Panthers, obviously had put themselves in that predicament, and they kept the game close, and it wasn't, a total meltdown of that defense. Obviously, the Panthers had their number and was able to be productive. But at the same time, that last drive, that is not a Seattle Seahawks team that up until this year we've traditionally seen. Now, it seems that they've blown, 4 or 5 fourth-quarter leads now this year. So this is coming to being a trend for the Seattle Seahawks this year. And a lot of people, credit that to Cam Chancellor being out early, but it's still happening. So obviously there's more to it than Cam Chancellor not being out on the field. And people will throw out Wagner. And, one of the plays they talked about today was, they kept a drive alive because of Wagner not being on the field. But every other team's got to go through the same scenario, and not having key players at times, are still got to manage to win. So I'm going to throw a little bit of credit one way and a little blame to the other. What are you going with on this?
Well, honestly, the Seahawks are just not very good right now. In our heads, and as we kind of perceive the Seahawks going in, a lot of people have them going back to the Super Bowl and having that dominant, defense that they've had for the last couple of years, and that's just not the case right now. I mean, Cam Newton had 116 yards passing, 12 of 15 in that final quarter, where the Seattle defense just fell completely apart. It's the last few that are it's against Detroit and Chicago, two of the worst teams in the NFL. So Seahawks sit 2-4. Not taking away from Carolina, because they're playing good football right now. Cam Newton's playing really well. They play strong defense. Bear has coached well. But I think Carolina really lacks the threats on the outside offensively for them to really have any success in the postseason. Whereas Seattle, they're not even in the playoffs right now. If they keep playing the way they are, it's going to be a pretty ugly as it continues to roll on. Another thing too, the Seahawks they've allowed league high sack, and everybody talks about Jimmy Graham and how he's not being implemented in the offense as well as he should be. But he was against the Panthers. He started often before the game. Trading for Graham, they traded their Pro Bowl center Max Unger, and Russell Wilson had pressure in his face every game they played, and the league high 26 sacks says it all. If you can't protect the quarterback, doesn't matter who it is, you're not going to win very many football games.
I'm just not ready to give Carolina too much credit yet. I think it's what it is. And like I said earlier today, I still don't think they'll take this division. I still think it's Atlanta's to lose. I think Atlanta just had a bad week. I would be shocked if Carolina takes the South. I think that they'll get a wild card. I think that Carolina will make the playoffs, but I don't think that they'll win this division, and I don't think that there'll be a serious threat. I just don't think they got all the pieces. I think with Benjamin being out for the season, yes, they're good, but I don't think that they are that good yet. Anyway,
they're not going to be. So you think if Carolina could go into Green Bay and beat Green Bay in a playoff game, or to go into even have to go to Atlanta in a playoff atmosphere, I still think the Falcons would take care of this against the Panthers, just because they can't score enough points to keep up with those teams. And obviously, you got to score points. And with Calvin Benjamin being out and Greg Olsen, a tight end, being their most explosive throw on offense, it's just not going to, you're going to have to sustain success against a really good team that can score a lot of points.
What amazes me about that game, though, is, like you mentioned, that's their most explosive piece right there. And really, going into the game, my game plan would be, no matter what happens on the field, this is one person you do not let be wide open. I don't care about anybody else on the field. Just Greg Olsen, number 88. You make sure that he does not get wide open. Anybody else that will take the consequences on. And that's not what happened. Like that's me. I don't care how bad of a meltdown you have. Someone is stuck on him, and that's not what happened. And the Seattle Seahawks, paying for it. And now, fortunately for them, the 49ers are horrible. Fortunately for them, the St. Louis Rams have been hit and miss. And fortunately for them, the Arizona Cardinals found a way to lose to a third-string quarterback. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But fortunately for them, a lot of other things played out in their favor where it didn't really cost them a lot other than you didn't gain no ground. And now you got some friction going on in the defense. We'll see how they squash the argument we saw and let their egos be to the side and move forward, or whether or not this is something we're going to continue to see, the frustration out of this defense. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Like you said, the Seahawks at least were in a situation where everything kind of played into their hand, but in one sense, what a perfect opportunity to make some headway in the division and move up a little bit. Happens. The league's a funny thing, and I know if they keep playing defense like they are and allowing the pressure on Wilson, they're not going to make the playoffs.
No, they're not. Not to keep playing the way they're doing, though. The next topic, before we get into this topic, is there any finger pointing or any accusing of the Patriots to cheat? Before we continue on talking about this next matchup, I want to make sure that all the finger pointing is out of the way, because once again, the Patriots able to be victorious over the Colts. I really expected more of a lopsided game. I'm sorry, but there's two games that are on my calendar if I'm Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, or Robert Kraft, and that is whenever we play the Indianapolis Colts and whenever we play the Baltimore Ravens, two teams that got butthurt because they got sent home in the playoffs and started pointing fingers and accusing the Patriots of cheating. And regardless if you view that they cheat or not, there's no proof, and you're just kind of just throwing those things out there. And so, to me, I know they try to downplay and say no revenge, but I'm sorry, I'm a bitter person, and I'm in a competitive sport, and I have bitterness. Even not being a Patriots fan, I have bitterness. I think that both of those teams should just put their tails between their legs and manned up and just took the loss, but that's just me. Yeah. But we got an opportunity to watch the Colts and the Patriots play last night. A lot closer than I really expected. Not that I'm, saying anything about the Colts. I think any other time it would have been close. I just thought there would have been more of a, you kind of woke up a bear. You kind of started all this, and now we got until the end of the season before it's even finished. Now with the, what am I looking for? They filed for what did they file for to get this case continued again?
The injunction as far as like going after Brady after the season. Is that what you're? They appealed
it or whatever. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So that to me, I'm mad. Tom Brady's got his life of his own and everything else, and now you still got court after the season is over with. To me, that's why I thought it had been lopsided. It was a great game to watch. Except for one part, and we're still scratching our heads, and we're going to talk about that in a second. How'd you like the game as a whole game?
Yeah, it was a good game. Like I said, I was right there with you. I thought the Patriots would come out, guns a-blazing, and it would kind of be more lopsided. But, Patriots ended up winning 27-21, and really the Colts had multiple chances to take control of that game. Really saw some vulnerabilities as far as New England, Frank Gore had a good game on the ground. The Patriots lost another offensive lineman, so there's another vulnerability. So a couple things, Patriots I thought would play the run better, and then their offensive line play wasn't as good as you would expect either. Brady was picked off for a pick six, but really just some coaching errors and really preparation. I mean, Belichick against Pagano really was the difference in that game, just because the Colts had really every opportunity to take control time and time again, and they kind of just shot themselves in the foot.
It's funny because the pick six, the fact that this has kind of been a rivalry since back in the day when it was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, the fact that this is, 4 straight wins with Andrew Luck being the quarterback for the Patriots, and I think they've won 6 in a row. I think the stats I've seen. all these things, the fact that the Patriots are now 5-0, and the Indianapolis Colts are only sitting 3-3, all the storylines that have come from this game and this matchup have all been overshadowed by one play. And it is funny because you've had college football teams calling them out and showing them how it was done. Tecmo Bowl, I've seen the redone on the Tecmo Bowl. I have seen everything. One, have you ever in your life seen anything as crazy as what we've seen on this play? And two, what was they trying to accomplish? I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out what exactly was supposed to happen.
I've been trying to figure that out all day, and it's kind of led off on all the headline sports shows and the replays of that play. But in case people didn't see it, the Colts, I don't know if it was 4th and 3 or 4th and short, and the Colts had the ball on their side of the field. So it was like a ball on the 35 of the Colts. The 9 players in the punt formation lined up to the right of the field, while a receiver lined up as center and a safety lined up under center. So, I've seen that in goal line situations or two-play conversions where field goal formation will line up and then they'll move them over or, try to get one-on-one coverage or, something. But it was just a complete disaster. I mean, the guy snapped the ball and he was immediately tackled and the Patriots took over and had a short field to work with. It really signifies, too, the fact that Chuck Pagano, who was a great story, and the fact that, he came back from cancer and really rallied around, Indianapolis really rallied around him and came over from there's been a lot of tension, I guess, between him and the upper management in Indianapolis as far as just his control of the locker room, things like that. So this only adds fuel to the fire because a lot of people had the Colts with Super Bowl expectations, and they really haven't performed to the level that people anticipated that they would. So Pagano, by doing this and throwing himself in the limelight with such a boneheaded call, and the fact that he actually came out and decided today that he would call the play over again, it's even crazier. So it really just is kind of interesting to see what's going to happen with Pagano and the Colts as the season continues, because they definitely have the talent. They spent the money in free agency, but something's not right there, and ultimately you see it in sports where Jim Harbaugh doesn't get along with managers. And if Pagano's not producing wins, he might be, somewhere besides Indianapolis next year.
I still shake my head on it. It was funny because not only did he say that, but also he took questions on his show tonight, and you can imagine how that went. And I know someone tweeted in some way, and I forget exactly how it was worded, but basically asked him if he was to be given a driving test or whatever, where would he sit in the car or basically have them sit on top of the hood to change things up or something of that nature. And I can only imagine. I can only imagine what the tweets, the messages, the emails, everything that he has received off that one particular play that is going down as known as being like the worst play ever in NFL history.
Yeah, and that's what they were talking about, all day. Is this the worst play you've ever seen? They're comparing it to Leon Lett in the snow game where he picked up the ball and the Cowboys ended up losing. They compared it to all sorts of stuff. It's crazy. I mean, those things were in the moment. This was a planned play that they obviously had practiced, or they saw something on film that thought they could take advantage of. And if I was a Colts fan, I can't imagine the way I would feel to be that close to beating a team that you hate so much, and to give the ball back to Tom Brady with that field position and that play in the game. It's just I can't imagine.
Now, obviously, Chuck Pagano and the Indianapolis Colts don't listen to this show, or they would have heard me speak many times on how highly I speak of Bill Belichick and the intelligence this man has for the sport. And if they would have listened to the show, they would have known that out of any team to try to pull something stupid with, the New England Patriots was not that team. I understand if you try that against the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or somebody, but you tried that against probably the smartest quarterback-coach combination that we've ever seen in NFL history. And you honestly thought that that play was going to confuse somebody?
Yeah, and the funny thing is after the game, I saw Belichick actually almost kind of defended it in a way to say that he kind of knew what they were kind of trying to do, whereas Pagano, when he was asked the question, he couldn't really even answer it. But Belichick basically could answer the question for him. So I don't know what's going on there. Like I said, it's probably one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Definitely the weirdest play call in the NFL I've ever seen. But to pull that out against Belichick and Brady when they're just waiting for you to make a mistake and you just basically give them, a gimme and let them put points on the board is pretty crazy.
I don't know. To me, the smartest thing was just took the delay of game or something instead of even. I mean, obviously it was an illegal formation and it didn't matter anyway, but at least not embarrass yourself by actually snapping the ball. Just took the delay game and went back to the sideline. And I was listening to a bit on Colin Cowherd talking about, if that was me, I would have walked back to the sidelines on about which idiot actually, made this play up. Like, I mean, Colin Cowherd, I don't know if I shared that piece or not on my Facebook page, but Colin Cowherd was really funny about it.
Oh yeah, he's a pretty funny dude, and I just would have liked to be a fly on the wall when that play was drawn up. I mean, who's the one that comes up with the idea that we're going to have, all right, let's have our wide receiver play center, and our safety can play quarterback. I mean, how did not a coach kind of at one point go, wait, what do you want to do here? Like, are you serious? It's that unbelievable that something like that would be developed at the NFL level and then obviously executed so horribly.
It's 4th and 3rd. It's 4th and 3, and you have Gore, who is a very legit running back. I mean, yeah, he's not in his prime, but Frank Gore is a legit running back, and you have a Pro Bowl quality quarterback in Andrew Luck, and you want your wide receiver and safety playing center and quarterback versus taking your chances with your Pro Bowl quarterback who's a pretty big guy and hard to bring down, not quite the size of Big Ben, but a pretty hefty quarterback. And you got Frank Gore. I don't understand how that makes any kind of, if nothing else at all made any sense, that to me makes the least amount of sense when you're taking two key quality Pro Bowl quality players out of the equation on a 4th and 3. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, literally any play drawn up in the history of football, I think, could have been a better idea than that one. So, Luck on a rollout or Gore, who had been successful running the ball, probably could have got 3 yards there versus doing something like that and looking foolish and really just swinging the momentum back to New England and giving them a short field.
Now speaking of crazy plays, I know it's a little off subject, and we're going to get back on this list. But did you have the opportunity to see, and I know it's not even NFL, did you have the opportunity to see the Michigan State, how that game ended?
Oh, my gosh. So I was sitting on the couch. I had a birthday party to go to Saturday night. And, Michigan gets the ball back with 2 minutes, and I want to say I flipped it over to the Cubs game, after I pretty much saw that they were going to win. And I got a notification on my phone that said, Michigan State pulls out victory. And I go, you got to be kidding me. What happened? I immediately, pulled up the video and saw that the punter. I mean, it's just how bad. I mean, you've seen the memes and the reaction, of just all across the country with, the faces of the fans in Ann Arbor. And, I mean, I feel bad for the punter, and really, Harbaugh, I think, did the right thing in punting the ball. I mean, people were kind of questioning if that's the right call, but I think 9 seconds left. Just got to get the ball off, and dude drops it. Gets swooped right into the Spartans' hands, and dude takes it back with no time on the clock, and Michigan State pulls it out. That was the only time that they had the lead too throughout the whole game. Michigan State had never led until literally 0 seconds on the clock. It was either tied or they were losing until no time was left. I thought that was pretty crazy. But yeah, I was one of the people that flipped the channel and then felt like an idiot and had to rewatch it a couple times in disbelief. But yeah, it was unbelievably insane.
Before I tell my part real quick, Philadelphia just fumbled it, gave it back to the Giants, but they are still up 17-7. It's funny because by the time you was turning the game off, that's when I turned it on. I think I just got done watching the Xfinity Series race. I think that's what I was doing before then, but I flipped to the channels. I honestly thought that the Michigan State game was early in the day, so I didn't expect it to be on. And I actually turned it on, I think, right when Michigan State didn't get it on the fourth down play and turned it over. And I sat there and watched this all unravel and watch this play, and all I could do was sit there and think, wow, like, did this just really happen? And all I could say out loud was like, oh, wow. And then I saw a video that I shared it on our on our blog site, but the local news, ABC local to the campus, the reporter had no idea and was reporting that Michigan won and the fans were out running the streets and celebrating. And, that was hilarious. I had to share that. I got a kick out of that. So
the dude, the reporter, in the video, he reports that Michigan wins, and it flips back to the studio, and they corrected it immediately. Like, okay, we apologize. Michigan State actually won at the last second. But the guy went on Twitter, and he's actually gotten a ton of notoriety for it. It's almost been like a boost to his local popularity and kind of put him on a national scene. So I thought that was kind of cool that it kind of turned into a blessing, I guess, in the fact that he did make a mistake, and really it should have been called by a producer or something probably first, but can turn it into a positive. But yeah, that game was insane. There was a lot of just crazy things this weekend, from college to pro. Baseball was pretty.
I tell you, if I was him though, knowing I'm going on national TV, and I say national, it's a local edition of ABC, but it was ABC. I would have used one of 800 apps available to me to confirm before I went on TV and announce that a team won, versus just assuming or taking the word of somebody. Because, that was, to me, that's embarrassing.
I don't know. Yeah, this day and age, how do you get literally live up to date, on the second live results. I mean, the guy was standing out.
I mean, if you got a notification knowing about it, he should have some kind of notification.
You'd think he'd be, have something there, but I still couldn't get over it. I mean, the reaction of the fans in the stadium, and gosh, to be a Michigan fan. I mean, wow, it's a tough.
I could never imagine being a Buckeye fan. I could never imagine being a Michigan fan.
I'm sure. I mean, it's Ohio State. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so.
You guys had a close one.
Yeah, we did. And we'll see. It's just there's some bullshit. My Cowboys have had injury issues, and the Irish have had them too. Quarterback, running back. It's like, man, can't catch them. Avoid that injury, but.
All right, back to the NFL. Now we got our last out on that game, and the last out of the Colts as well. Broncos and Browns. Interesting game. I tell you what. I think that's been the other hot topic all morning long is Peyton Manning and whether or not he is done. Is age, father time finally catching up with him? As the Browns made a game out of it. Really not surprised. Matter of fact, I picked Cleveland to win. As my upset game of the week, I thought Cleveland had an opportunity, and I was less and less confident once I found out Joe Hayden and Taj Gibson were not going to be playing. So that that was two key pieces in the secondary that Cleveland lost. But they kept it close. They had their opportunities, and they screwed up their opportunities to win that game. Peyton Manning came through when it mattered and led the Denver Broncos down the field in overtime and was able to produce a score for them to be able to be victorious. I used to losing, so I'm not too upset that we lost. I kind of expected it. Once again, got my hopes up. This is one of those seasons that I'm finding myself being a little bit more hopeful as we've been close in most of the games. So I'm kind of excited about that. I know we are a piece or two, and I think one of them is the quarterback situation. And Johnny Manziel obviously shot himself in the foot, and I'd be surprised if he's still part of the Browns after this season with his latest ordeal that he has going on. But I saw an interesting stat that the Denver Broncos defense has scored 85 points versus the offense is only 54 points. One, I want to get your thoughts on the game, but two, can this defense continue to carry this offense that's not producing?
Well, I mean, it's crazy to think a Peyton Manning run offense is struggling to score points when they have a all-pro receiver on the as an option. They have other weapons as well, but the defense isn't going to be able to carry them. I mean, it's just an offensively driven league, and it's kind of sad in a way. I mean, I've never been a big Peyton Manning fan, but to see him just kind of continue to struggle. I mean, through 3 picks. I mean, if he was on any other team in the league right now, I mean, they might be 1-5. To turn the ball over like that and to win games 12-9 and pull games out in overtime after you turn the ball over like that just doesn't happen. So something's got to give, and it's either management have to step up and find a way for them to become a little more effective offensively, or the defense isn't going to be able to do it forever. And DeMarcus Ware was out with an injury, and they had a undrafted kid from Colorado State step up. Barrett had a couple sacks. They've got all sorts of guys stepping up on defense. So, unfortunately, it won't last forever, though. They do have to score some points because the teams that they're going to play, the premier teams in the AFC, the Patriots, they have to score points if they want to contend with them. Even the Bengals. I think the Bengals have a better team offensively than the Broncos do. So, yeah, they're going to figure something out. But the Giant Manziel things. I mean, I'm not a Browns fan like you, but to have him have another off-the-field incident, and I guess he was driving with his girlfriend and she was freaking out or hit him, or I don't know exactly what happened, but cops got involved. And gosh, I mean, Bill Cowher came out and said that the Browns should just cut him now and move on. And it's like, man, just when I thought he was turning the corner, he gets back into trouble. So
Well, a couple things on when it comes to the Broncos. One, I've always said offenses will win you games, defenses will win you championships. That's just how I believe. I believe that you can't outscore everybody. So, yes, your offense can win you some games, but unless your defense can stop somebody, you're not winning the championship. Now, this to me, my whole saying of offenses win you games and defenses win you championship probably is about to be proven one way or another how true that is, because I don't see all of a sudden the Broncos just putting up a ton of points. I think this is as good as it's going to get for this year. I think that Peyton Manning, everything's just finally catching up with him. As great of a quarterback he is, I just think that this is it. This is his sign, knowing that, look, this is my last year. I wouldn't be surprised if it continues this way, regardless if it's a Super Bowl run or not. I honestly believe if it continues this way, this might be the last year we see Peyton Manning, at least as a starting quarterback anyway. But my theory will get proven this year by the Denver Broncos. Either that defense will continue to do what they're doing and produce points and shut down other teams to the point that they're able to be victorious, or Patriots and the Bengals and all them are going to run all over them. One way or another, my theory is going to get proven. Leads the NFL in interceptions. That's crazy to think that he's got 10 interceptions already this year. Had 3 interceptions to the Browns. I believe he's got 4 pick sixes, maybe, if I remember that correctly. Definitely suffering. Ronnie Hillman tweeted out talking about fake fans and weren't complaining when they're winning and they're still undefeated. So as much criticism people are talking about the Denver Broncos, they got to remember also, as horrible as they look, they still won the games. So for some reason things start clicking, then the NFL really needs to look out, because if they could do what they're doing and be 6-0, then I can imagine if everything was to hit all cylinders all of a sudden, how deadly this team could be. I just thought it was interesting because I agree, and I know listening to the NFL Network today, they were kind of criticizing, talking about maybe you shouldn't say fake fans. But to me, those are one of the teams that you have fake fans. To me, them and Seattle are kind of in the same boat. you don't hear a lot about Seattle fans or a lot of Seattle merchandise unless they're winning. Before Seattle and the Legion of Boom and Pete Carroll, there ain't nobody winning. We didn't see nothing since the Sean Alexander and Hasselbeck days, and they lost the Super Bowl in a horribly officiated Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you didn't hear nothing or see nothing until now, and you're not really seeing a lot of Seattle stuff these days. As horrible as they've been playing this season, it's kind of like they all went back in hiding. So I don't like to call fans fake, but at the same time, those are a couple teams that, you don't really see. Yeah.
They have their fans come in and out. And really, if you think about it, too, I mean, the types of cities that they're in, Seattle and Denver, it's a laid-back, liberal atmosphere, too, where, it's just not it's not Chicago or New York or, even a city like Cleveland where the fans are a lot, stronger and passionate and really into their local. They have the 12th man in Seattle and they fill the stadium up, but you really don't hear any, talk of, local chatter or anything about the Seahawks or the Broncos, whereas like, the Philadelphia Eagles or, those teams have that really passionate fan base and are real critical and will ride or die for their team no matter what. But yeah, I mean, your theory on, defense wins championships, it definitely does. I mean, look, as good as the Patriots were on offense, Malcolm Butler's picks, at the end is what really won them the game. But they do have to be able to keep up offensively, at least the way the league is set up now with the rules changed and it being so offensively driven to put points on the board to keep it more exciting. Manning and the Broncos will have to figure it out. And I also wonder at what point will the locker room kind of start to lose, more confidence. And Peyton Manning obviously has earned years and years of respect and trust, so he's going to be entitled to a little more than your average Joe. But at some point, if he keeps holding them back, I mean, he's going to lose trust in the locker room, and ultimately they'll have chemistry issues as the season goes on, which is something nobody wants to have as you're trying to make a playoff run.
And the whole offense wins games and defense wins championships thing, I think that really came into its own for me when the New York Giants beat an undefeated New England Patriots team that year because they outscored almost they outscored everybody until the last game, but it wasn't a high productive. It wasn't like they didn't get outscored by the New York Giants. Their defense just didn't allow the Patriots to score a lot of points. And, and the Giants wasn't the most productive offense, was the greatest offense. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, both of their Super Bowl runs have been wild card runs. They just barely got in and just got hot at the right time. So, that's exactly when I started putting that whole theory together, because you just can't outscore everybody. Eventually, defense is going to stop you, and it's whether or not your defense could do the same thing to the other team or not is what's going to make a difference. You wanted to talk about the best and worst, I believe, best worst 6-0 team. This is an interesting topic, or undefeated team. Let's go that way, because the Patriots are 5-0, and I'd like to be able to include them into that.
Right.
Interesting conversation, because you had asked me a week ago that there's a possibility Atlanta still being undefeated could have been, one of the best undefeated teams. And now we're looking at, five teams?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams, and I think we all know who I'm not going to put on the best, and probably still be part of my worst. And to do a scoring update, DeMarco Murray just scored a touchdown. They're going to go up 24-7 over the Giants. Thank God I'm going to stay above 500 this week. But you've got two undefeated teams that I'm still not quite sure about. And that's the Denver Broncos, as we just talked about them. And even the Green Bay Packers, even though they look good, the injuries really worry me on how far they can continue to do what they do. And so this whole best and worst thing is a really interesting conversation. I think without a doubt we both probably have the same two teams that is coming down to who the best is. I'm really curious to know who your top two teams are. But to nail one team down, tough. It's tough to say one team is the best undefeated team, and we can have legitimate arguments for actually all five teams, even Carolina, to why they are the best undefeated team. So I want to know what your top two teams are, and then let's go from there on how we're deciding who the best and worst are.
Yeah, so I had, really 1A or 1B. I would say New England's right now the best team in the league. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the formula that they've built with the intermediate passing game. I do think, like I said, they have some issues. Just if you want to really get picky about it, the injuries to the offensive line is something that's concerning, just because you get pressure on Tom Brady, and then that's how you can beat him. But their defenses seem formidable enough to hold opponents to a limited amount of points where they can really dominate. And they talked on the radio and throughout the media the last week about is this a 16-0 team, because this is the first time they started 5-0 since the last time they went undefeated and actually lost that Super Bowl you were just talking about. But I think New England, and then I think Green Bay too. And it really goes back to one thing: they have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. They have some injuries, but they have a great coach, McCarthy. And I really like what I've seen from their defense as far as, they gave up a lot of passing yards to Phillip Rivers, but they did make a play there at the end of the game, batted a pass away on fourth down to clinch the win. That I think on defense they can do just enough to kind of get over that hump. And then I kind of have the Bengals in between in a class of their own. I think they're probably the most well-rounded team, and if they had maybe a flashier quarterback, or if I have trust issues in the fact that every time they get to the playoffs they seem to lay an egg, you could almost make the case that the Bengals are the best overall team from offense, defense to special teams in the league. And then the Panthers and the Broncos I have in the bottom tier, and the reason for that is they both are one-dimensional offensively. Cam Newton doesn't have the weapons at his disposal that a quarterback in this league needs to be successful, and then the Broncos have the issues with Peyton Manning and just scoring points like we just got to talk about too.
See, the talk of best and worst undefeated is just it's interesting to me.
Picky, that's for sure. Yeah.
I would have to say the Patriots number one, and the only thing that scares me about the Patriots is defensively. Are you continuously going to be able to stop teams? And traditionally, Patriots have relied on outscoring everybody. I think that's what ultimately cost them the last two Super Bowls. The two that they lost to the Giants anyway, not last year. It is traditionally their defense has not been known to stop. It's been more of the offense just outscoring everybody. And you're allowing these teams to run up and down the field. You're just outscoring because you have Gronkowski, you got Tom Brady, and you got all the X factors that show up week in and week out. But to me, yes, Bill Belichick's system is the best system. You have a relationship between those two. I mean, even to listen to their interviews, it's like you're interviewing the same person. Brady might talk a little bit more, but you're getting the same information out of Tom Brady as if you were sitting there talking to Bill Belichick. You're getting nothing. And so it's like you got the same person, just one's the coach and one's the quarterback. And it's rather entertaining, and being media, I can only imagine how frustrating it could be to actually be there and try to get legitimate answers out of either one of them, and you're not going to get it. And it's kind of almost a waste, but it's your job to try to get something. But just, to me, they are the best undefeated team. I think this is where we differ. I have Cincinnati number two. My only concerns with Cincinnati is we get to the last 2 or 3 games in the playoffs. Can they get over that hump? Can Andy Dalton not fall apart? The last couple of years, they've made the playoffs, but barely, and it wasn't because of Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton falls apart every year, the last 2 or 3 games, and he starts seeing 2 or 3 interceptions a game and not the 2 or 3 touchdowns a game that we've been used to at the beginning of the year. Can Marvin Lewis get his first playoff win? To me, that is key. I think if Cincinnati and Marvin Lewis can get over that, I think that there's a lot to be said about this team. They have impressed me a lot. I am very anti-Cincinnati, being a Cleveland fan, and for me to have the compliments I have out of Andy Dalton and AJ Green, that defense, they're scary to me. They could very well run the table and not go undefeated, but be the AFC representative. And we're going to talk about the Steelers after this. And I tell you what the Steelers have overcome is, I think, help pushing the Bengals, because they know that they need to have home field advantage, and the Steelers are not going to make it easy for them, obviously. Then I agree, Green Bay. My concerns with injuries. How long can you keep overcoming the injuries? A healthy Green Bay team, I think that they would probably be the best team, undefeated team. But since they have their issues, I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall. In other words, I'm waiting for another player to get hurt that is going to be more impactful. I honestly thought losing Jordy Nelson would have really hurt them, but obviously 6-0, that does not hurt them to the point that they're still not winning games. So I'm curious to see if this defense can continue doing what they got to do on the defensive side of the ball. But I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall. I'm waiting if it be Aaron Rodgers or another key receiver that just really, Cobb being out permanently, not just hit and miss with his injury. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for something. The next of the undefeateds, I would have to go with the Denver Broncos. Like I said, if Denver all of a sudden offensively could get it together, they would be scary. Knowing what that defense has done so far, scoring 85 points, and playing the way they have played, if the offense could play to that caliber, they quickly and easily could be the best undefeated team. But as where it sits, they're winning and they're undefeated, and that really all that matters. It don't matter how they do it. A win is a win. And at the end of the day, the only thing we see is 6-0, not the fact that, there's 85 points scored versus 54. We just know that because we did our research. But if you open the paper, it just says 6-0. It don't say how it happened. And so, at any moment, they could be that threat. And then you got Carolina, the only team that I am really uncertain, because I see 5-0, but I've seen their opponents, and yes, Seattle should have validated it, but Seattle has probably blown more fourth quarter leads than any team in the NFL, and that's weird for us to say about a Seattle team who's sitting outside the top 10 in defense. And so, yes, as impressed as I am with the fact that they did go to Seattle and they were able to be victorious, I still can't hold a lot of weight on that 5-0 record when four teams were a combined record of 5-15 when they played them going into this week. And then, so you're playing a Seattle team that's now 500 and they keep losing, giving up leads anyway. So I agree. Patriots definitely the best undefeated team. Carolina the worst. I think we have slightly different opinions on maybe who two should be, but I think any of the undefeated teams right now outside of Carolina, as long as the stars are aligned for any of the other four undefeated teams line up, in other words, no more injuries for Green Bay and they get a couple of their injured players back, or Denver all of a sudden the offense get to be better, or Cincinnati then get past the hump at the end of the year, or Patriots defense, stiffen up. I think any of those four teams at any given minute could be really scary bad and really run the table if they really wanted to, as long as everything lined up for them.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. I don't know if you're watching, but Sam Bradford just threw another interception. Man, it was terrible. Just picked off.
Riley just standing there looking like
he
overthrew Riley Cooper by like 20 yards.
Yeah, yep. It's been a horribly sloppy game. Philadelphia still at 24-7 against the Giants, but gosh, Bradford, I don't know what to think about him. Really all that they got going on in Philadelphia.
The only thing that I can think of Bradford, when I see Sam Bradford, and when I sit there and think what it must be like to be Sam Bradford, the only thing I can visualize is him being at home, kicking his feet up with a big grin on his face, knowing he was the last player to really screw over an NFL team since they changed the whole rookie salary cap thing after he got drafted.
Yeah.
Because the contract he got was ridiculous, and to know that he has gotten paid the amount of money he has gotten paid to really do nothing, I know that he's got to be sitting there with a big grin on his face every single day.
Yeah, no kidding, man. It looks like he hasn't aged in 10 years, because it looks like he could still be 17 years old too.
Well, I mean, you don't play. You sit on the sideline and hurt. I mean, how much? And you got what, $80 million or whatever it was on that contract. You shouldn't age at all. You ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess if I had that amount of money and didn't have to really do anything, all day except watch football practice from the sideline and go to the games, I'd probably be looking pretty young too.
Yeah. There's no way. Speaking of injuries, I am very anti-Pittsburgh Steeler. Being a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm very anti almost everybody, but I definitely the AFC North for many different reasons for each of the teams. Very impressed with the fact that you beat, not only were they able to beat an Arizona Cardinal team that if you had asked me about 2 weeks ago I thought was the best team in the NFC, possibly the best team in the NFL. Not only did you beat the Arizona Cardinals, you went into the game with your second-string quarterback who had a sloppy game and got hurt, and essentially beat the Arizona Cardinals with your third-string quarterback that I don't think anybody really knew anything about other than he played for, Oklahoma?
Yeah, Landry Jones. And really, Landry Jones was a guy in the preseason that I didn't think was going to make the roster. They had brought in Taj Boyd, who was playing well, the standout quarterback from Clemson, and then Landry Jones really looked terrible in the preseason. And you can't attribute anything too much to preseason, but if you're playing bad, you definitely can. I mean, if you're lighting it up in the preseason, big deal. But if you're playing bad in the preseason, that's something you should take into consideration. And Landry Jones came into the game, and really once he came into the game, it really took Pittsburgh's offense up a level. They started scoring points. They get 2 touchdown passes, really only a couple of incompletions. But he looked really poised up there, real comfortable. And it'd be interesting to see. I think I saw today Vic said he would be out at least a week. That MRI had a small tweak in the hamstring. So those injuries linger, and for a guy like Vic who's struggled with hamstrings the last couple of years, they might be able to, ride it out with Jones because, Roethlisberger should be pretty close to coming back. But, the Steelers had all sorts of questions on defense, and they shut down Arizona offensively. They were able to move the ball against what I thought was one of the better defenses in the NFL with their third-string quarterback. Really just kind of a funny game for the Steelers to be able to handle, like one of the better teams in the league like they did. So it'd be interesting to see how the AFC North shakes out because the Steelers, once they get Roethlisberger back, and they got that three-headed monster with Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. If they can continue to grow on defense and have some of those younger players step up and continue to make plays, they could be right there in the talk too.
Did you have an opportunity to see the interview with Landry? He was more shocked at the fact that he even got into the game.
I did not.
It was quite comical. He was shocked that he was even going to go into the game. But Deion Sanders, did you hear what he said about Michael Vick? That he wouldn't be surprised if that was the last time we ever saw Michael Vick as a starting quarterback, or even Michael Vick as a quarterback period in the NFL.
Yeah, and Vic actually made reference to it before his first start against the Ravens. And he said, this might be the last time I ever get a chance to start in this league. I want to say 35 or 36 years old, and he doesn't have that quick speed and that elusiveness that he once did. But it very well could be. I mean, he wasn't picked up by the Steelers until a couple weeks before the season when the Steelers lost their Gronkowski to injury. So he possibly wasn't going to be on a team this year and got picked up late. So I think that's a real strong possibility that we'll have seen the last of Michael Vick. And it's kind of unfortunate, remember him coming out of Virginia Tech and just being an unbelievable athlete, and then all the drama and stuff that surrounded him. Kind of unfortunate to kind of see him go out like that. I was kind of rooting for him just because I feel like there's a double standard for certain things, and I felt like he paid his dues and did his time and apologized and handled that the right way and got a second chance. That I was hoping he can kind of have a second coming and have a good second half of his career, but yeah, that could be it for Vic. It's kind of crazy to think.
Yeah, they beat up on Sam Bradford right now. He just took a shot. Speaking of the Steelers game, Martavis Bryant had 137 receiving yards. There we go. Obviously, a big key piece to that Steelers victory. 2 touchdowns, and this is how lopsided the receiving was. Antonio Brown just 24 yards, and Marcus Wheaton just 8 yards receiving compared to the 137 yards to Martavis Bryant. I tell you what, I don't think the Steelers or Big Ben could have asked really for anything more than what they've gotten. To be 4-2 at this point and still be in contention for the AFC North or even a wild card spot with the Bengals being 6-0. And now you got him coming back, and you're going to have Bryant, Brown, and Wheaton, and of course Heath Miller, and still got Hayward Bay as well. Now you really got a serious threat. And, this might be one of those teams that has not got a lot of talk because Michael Vick, after the play with Big Ben being out, and now Landry Jones looks like he'll probably be starting next week. But imagine how scary this team could be once you get Big Ben back and you add that dynamic back to this offense, and now you got all these receivers all back and running on all cylinders, and, of course, with Bell in the backfield. I tell you what, we might not be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals too much longer after Big Ben's return.
Yeah, the thing about the injuries and issues, as a team you have to persevere through, you really find out a lot. You find out a lot more about yourself as a team and really dig deeper into the bag of tricks as far as what's going to work, how we're going to score points, or we're going to stop players. When your best best player on your team's out, it definitely builds up some resiliency and some swagger. I think that confidence when you get Big Ben back and they can really be at full strength, kind of endured over the last couple of weeks, will definitely come in handy. We'll definitely be able to use that moving forward and really make a push. Like you said, it might not be the Bengals in a couple of weeks. We might be talking about the Steelers, and the Bengals are back to their old ways again.
Miami wins with their new head coach's debut. Not only did they win, they won very impressively. Now, I say that, but I'm gonna follow that up. It was against the Tennessee Titans, who were just 1-3 with a rookie quarterback. But this is more of what I was expecting to see out of the Miami Dolphins going into the season. How impressed were you to see this Miami team come together and look like they actually were the team under their new head coach in the first week for him?
Yeah, Dan Campbell, he was he played for a couple NFL teams, hard-nosed guy. He had him doing the Oklahoma drill in practice, things you did in 5th or 6th grade. He really had high-intensity practices where they were really competing, and they came on fire. I mean, Cameron Wake, who really hadn't done anything, literally anything at this point into the season, had 4 sacks, and their defense looked like you thought it would after they spent all that money. They were playing inspired football, and he had a nice little post-game speech that he gave. It'll be interesting to see if it can be sustained. I think after a while, players will start to come back on their older teams, but maybe he can keep going. Interesting, but they look like a whole new team, a team that was disengaged to this point, and underperforming, came out, had intensity. They were getting to the quarterback, playing good.
Now, the hit on Marcus Mariota obviously caught a little bit of attention. Do you feel that hit was malicious, intent, a bad hit? What was your opinion on that hit?
It didn't look very good. Anytime, to me, when I saw the play, it looked like he would have had enough time to hold up, and those guys are aware with getting hit in that area of the leg is like.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that I thought it was malicious just because I don't know. I feel like sometimes the game is so fast, and when we're watching on TV, we can't really understand how fast the game's moving. So to say, tended to hurt him, I don't know, but it didn't look good. I mean, to me, it looks like he saw what he was doing and could have stopped himself, but just chose not to.
Gotcha, and I completely agree. I got to say that it was some kind of classiness to hear him go to apologize to Mariotto after the game. And, I think it'll be easier if nothing is done or nothing else is said about it, especially since Mariotto came out and said he didn't think it was malicious as well. Obviously, the coach thinks otherwise. Whitehurst was not too happy with it, even in his post-game interview.
Yeah, he came out and said that he thought that was dirty play, and so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he gets fined by the league. What they do about that.
Definitely will be curious. We didn't get into all the topics. We got into most of the topics anyway. I think that just left us two that we can add to tomorrow's show. Is we got Patrick returning from 10 to 10:30 tomorrow night, as we'll wrap up the agenda for today, then also prepare for Week 7 of the NFL with a bunch of good matchups. Patrick, as always, I want to thank you very, very much for joining me. I love being able to spend an hour on Mondays talking NFL, especially with it all still being fresh in our mind. As a matter of fact, with the game still going on top of that, always makes Monday night a great time. I'm looking forward to doing it again tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, bud.
Yes, sir. Patrick Taylor from Lion Blower. Make sure you guys check us out. He's on every Monday at 10 o'clock and every Tuesday night at 10:30 to help us talk NFL. Unfortunately, we never had our guest join us tonight. Hopefully, we will get her rescheduled for one of the 2 days coming up. Don't forget, tomorrow night we got, and I don't even know who we got. I know partly who we got. I'm not sure. As a matter of fact, I think I was just told who was coming this week. I don't think I was actually told days, what days they were coming, so I'm not 100% sure who is going to be tomorrow. But I do know that we still got Hannah Newhouse and we still got Sarah Cornett-Ching joining us this week. So one of them is going to be joining us at 9:30 tomorrow. Excuse me. Then we got Patrick Taylor coming back at 10 o'clock to talk NFL. Then we got our very own NHL expert, Izzo, joining us at 10:30 to talk NHL and NWHL, the Women's Hockey League as well. So looking forward to that. And then Thursday or Wednesday, whoever the other guest was that didn't show up tomorrow night, Hannah or Sarah, we'll have on Wednesday. Maybe hopefully we'll get Amber to join us on Wednesday since we got a full house on Thursday. I'll let Miss Lee work that out for us. And don't forget, Thursday nights, we got Racing with Big Sweat kicking off at 9 o'clock. He's got 3 great guests joining us, so looking forward to that. Don't forget, Friday at noon, you got the CJ and Shorty show, where we're going to talk about the rate our 10 toughest sports. Also, 3 athletes that we would do the unthinkable. In other words, who would we cheat on with? What 3 athletes would you be willing to cheat on each other with? We're going to throw those out there, plus many other topics that we got. There's an opportunity for us to just kind of cut back. Short, sport-related show, but a lighter side of it for us to have fun with, cut up and push the envelope on some of the topics. Don't forget, follow us at 110 Nation. Follow myself at CJ Sports 1. Check our company site out, www.the110nation.com. Also, our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. Till tomorrow night. You guys have a great one.
O'Reilly. Looking for quality auto parts for your vehicle? Shop one of the 30 Raleigh-Durham O'Reilly Auto Parts stores. You'll find we have convenient locations, thousands of brand name products in stock, extended store hours, everyday low prices, and well-trained professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.